We do have sound. Hopefully it's just me that you hear. I hope. Don't spill your coffee. Oh my God. Okay. I'm sitting down. Here we are, episode 3, and I hope everybody is having a dad hair day, and I'm excited. We're actually putting this thing together. So let's get going. Let's get your hair growing. And today we are going to talk about how to grow your hair healthy, but most importantly, basically how to take care of your hair. And I want to talk about primarily shampooing. And most of you know what shampooing is. It's when you wash your hair. And there's so many tips and tricks I want to tell you about washing your hair correctly. And I also want to tell you some of my stories on how things that have happened to me while I was shampooing hair and my evolution from shampoo bitch to senior stylist or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I was sitting here waiting to start this podcast and the washing machine was going the entire time. And my wife is so nice. She takes Phoenix and she leaves and she lets me do this in peace. So I set up the camera and set up my light. And I sit down and I check the washing machine and it's on like 6. So I'm like, okay, 6 minutes, I can wait that out. Well, the washing machine just doesn't seem to like want to stop then. And then it goes into like some sort of rinse cycle or something. And then it goes into some fucking spin cycle or something. And so now I'm texting Laura and I'm like, hey, this washing machine just isn't going off. And by this time, of course, she's like, hey dude, I've already been walking Phoenix around. So can you just get going? So she goes, all you need to do is open the washing machine and it'll stop. So I walk over there and I'm like, okay, let's open the washing machine. And I open the washing machine and there's nothing in it. And I'm like, what the hell? It's like some sort of phantom wash she's got going. And then I look a little deeper and there's like one little shirt at the bottom. And I'm just sitting here going, are you kidding me? I sat here for 30 minutes listening to thinking that I could start my damn podcast and get some information out to you guys listening and entertain and teach you how to shampoo. But instead of me talking about washing your hair, I'm waiting for the washing machine. And it was just this whole back and forth conversation with me and my wife. But anyway, let's talk about shampooing your hair and not making the mistakes that I did with the washing machine over there just minutes ago. So washing hair is basically the first thing you learn when you become a hair apprentice. Other than sweeping hair, you then get to graduate up to washing it, and call it what you want. I always like to call myself the shampoo bitch, but I don't think we can say that anymore because of you can't make fun of each other anymore because it's so sensitive. So anyway, basically when I started shampooing, I started at, the first salon that I worked at. And Brian, who was my faithful owner / guy apprenticed, he, kind of taught me how to shampoo, but more of my shampooing knowledge came from how good it felt to get your head shampooed. And even as a guy, like when I went in, got my little clipper cut, or when I actually graduated from the barber shop, which would just like go in and you got clippered. I remember I went to Dick's barber shop. And Dick would just be like, you want a high and tight? I'm like, yep, give me that high and tight, bro. So he'd buzz me up. But then when I graduated and Janae started doing my hair, I got it shampooed. And it was such a, it was like this passage or this new rite of passage, I guess. Is that how you say it? Where I'm like, oh my God, I've graduated to the big leagues. Like I'm getting my head shampooed before I get a haircut. And I just remember how good it felt to like lay back in that shampoo bowl. And for those of you who don't know, when your cousin's doing your hair, she's not really giving shit about how good she's shampooing your hair. In fact, she's probably like, get my fucking weird little cousin like out of here so I can take a client that's actually gonna pay me money. But even in the 15-second scrub that she would give me, it just always, I was like, damn, this feels good, man, to get your head rubbed. And it was always one of my things with that experience to be like, yo, I'm gonna give like the best shampoo. I wanna be able to like give this crazy awesome head massage, and just put people in a Zen state. And so that's what I really prided myself on as an assistant. I like figured out all my manipulations and I had this like really cool where I'd put your head like in a vise with my palms and I'd like press on your palms at the beginning and just get this really nice soft pressure. And then I would, manipulate the hair all back away from your face and yada, yada, yada. And growing up playing baseball my whole life and football and things like that, I had really strong hands due to just, playing a lot of sports. So, being a bigger guy and having big, strong hands, I could basically, with both of my hands, completely palm and grasp most women's entire heads. So that made for a really great massage when you could just sit there and like massage the entire head at one time. And the issue with that is when you're an apprentice and you think your life revolves around giving someone the best hair, experience they had, you're working for someone that's trying to make money. And Brian was so busy that me doing these, 15-minute glorified, Fabio shampoos in the back where, we've got the wind blowing and I'm buttoning my shirt a little more and I'm giving these women these shampoos that are like, oh, and I'm putting on, Kenny G and trying to like, spritz them with, lavender and he's like, bro, like get this girl back up here right now. I've got to do a haircut. My next client's in 5 minutes. Like I don't have time for you to sit back there and, play the violin for these women. But so that was my first like big eye opener. Was half the time I loved it because we had this unspoken rule that most of the time, if you guys know anything about getting your hair colored and then getting it cut, the color, it only stays on for so long and it's a processing time. So when you went to go, like once the time was up, it's up. You can't like overcook it, especially when you're doing blondes. So once the time was up on the bleach, he's like, okay, boom, get the client back to the shampoo bowl. I pull the foil packets out. I'm then shampooing, conditioning, doing that whole thing. And I'd always like look at him and kind of like, he'd either give me the look where it was like the wink of being like, go for it, bro. You can like do your thing and just like rub her down, give her the whole experience. And I sort of knew, or he gave me the tap on the watch. It was like tap, 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 tap. And I'm like, okay. And it was always one of those things that, it was like, sometimes I gave a girl a great shampoo. Sometimes I gave her like a rushed moment. But a couple things that were always super important with the shampoo that you can't really do yourself. But if you're listening at home as a hairdresser, when your head is back in that shampoo bowl, and most of us hairdressers do know this, but when it's back in that bowl for that long and it's heavy and your hair is wet, especially if your hair is really long or it's got a shitload of color in it, it's a lot of weight on that little ceramic place that you're resting your neck on. It's a lot of weight on your neck. So I would always finish every shampoo with this really slow neck massage. And the neck massage was always so important at the end. So no matter what, I always gave them the neck massage. And then sometimes if I couldn't give them the neck massage at the shampoo bowl because I was getting the tap, 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 I would then, I would kind of do it while they were like, sitting in the chair, getting ready to get their hair cut, or as I was detangling them or brushing them out, I'd try to sneak that neck massage in there for them. But the other interesting thing about when I used to shampoo is, so the hose, if you don't know anything about a shampoo bowl, it's this big bowl and it's got this hose. But when the hose is in the off position, it's kind of like shrunk in and only the spout is showing. So you have to grab the spout, pull it out, and then aim it down into the, into like the client's head so that it rinses the color, gets them, so you can start washing the hair. But when I was in beauty school, a lot of times you would forget that just because we were so new and we just didn't know. And in beauty school, we had this like line. It was like this massive shampoo bowl area because the school was very big and you had, I think there was like 20, 30 shampoo bowls all in this like line. And I'll never forget standing next to a girl who just walked right up to the shampoo bowl thing and she put her client's head back, rested it back in the shampoo bowl, and then just turned the water on, but she hadn't pulled the spout out, so just full blast of a fountain went straight up into the air. It went over the top of her client, and then it went into this arcing motion and landed on the poor old lady that was getting her hair, and she was like in her deep Zen relaxation massage moment, and just got her face blasted with this stream of like rain, basically. It basically went up into the air and came back down into this rainwater shower situation. And I'll never forget this little old lady, instead of doing anything surprised or anything, she just picks her hands up in the air and just screams, "Splash Mountain!" And everyone in the beauty school laughed so hard because it was like the sweetest little old lady, and she just didn't even care. She just embraced the fact that she just got drenched with this fucking mass amount of water, and it's just all over her face, and her makeup's running everywhere, and she's just kicking her little feet, and she's just like, splash mountain. So yeah, don't make that mistake of turning on. Most of the time you would just turn on the shampoo bowl and it would spray you right in the face. And that happened to me multiple times until I figured that out. But when you're shampooing your hair in your own shower, you don't usually have that problem. I mean, a lot of us do have like the handheld things now that you can definitely grab and manipulate. But, you know, for the most part, the shower's sitting up there. It's not moving. You know where the stream of water is that's going to blast you. And yeah, so anyway, some of those really early days of shampooing that I loved. But the importance of shampooing is, I think one of the first tips I want to tell you guys about shampooing is don't over shampoo your hair. What I've really found is the people with the worst scalp conditions, the worst color fading, the worst issues with it's way too oily of a scalp. It's usually the girls with the oiliest scalp have the worst problems with this, and they don't understand that if they shampoo their hair less, their hair will actually get less oily. And this is mainly because your hair produces its own natural oils. And really, your natural oils are one of the best things that you can possibly put like through your hair to make your hair that beautiful. That's why Marsha Brady would brush her hair 100 times every day, so that she would take all the oils she had from that morning or that night or that day or whatever and brush them down through her hair before she'd go to bed. And she had her beautiful hair. So what happens is that your scalp needs to produce the oil. And when you shampoo it, a lot of the times, the purpose of a shampoo is to cleanse your scalp and cleanse your hair. But if it cleanses your scalp then goes, okay, I need to produce oil. So it starts to produce oil. Then you shampoo it again the next day and you strip it again and your hair goes, oh, I need to produce oil. And then you strip it again the next day and then your hair goes, oh, I need to produce oil. And your body starts to realize that something's happening where you're not regulating enough oil because your oil glands in your scalp and in your follicle are so overly activated that they start producing so much oil that then your hair becomes very, very, very oily. Then it becomes that slippery slope, pardon the pun, or an oil slick or whatever, that now your hair is so oily that now you're shampooing it even more. Now you're like, oh my God, now I have to shampoo it even more. And now you're changing your shampoos and you're doing things that are even more stripping, or you're doing things that are just like, you know, you're over manipulating, you're scrubbing your scalp too much. And basically what has happened is your hair in your follicle is on red alert, and it's basically like amber alert going, oh my God, we need to produce our own oils because they just are constantly being stripped. And like, why is she doing this to us? Why is she stripping us of our natural oils? And so, yeah, so it's hard for me to tell my clients that, yes, okay, your scalp is incredibly oily right now. The only way to get it back to normal and get your pH balance restored in a much more manageable way is you have to now stop shampooing your hair for a while. You have to let your follicles be like, oh, okay, pump the brakes. We're pumping the brakes. We got some oil. All right, we got some oil. And, you know, and that usually seems to work. And yes, you're going to go through a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of just like, oh my God, my poor hair. But it's the only way you will get your hair back to it. So once I got out of the salons in Seattle and I moved to New York, it was a much bigger monster. So I was already doing hair as a stylist in Seattle for 5 years, was taking my own clients, was crushing the shampoo game. I was giving the best head in the salon there was, and everyone loved getting their head shampooed by me, even the stylist that I worked with and everything. And I really took a ton of pride in my massaging. And then when I moved to New York, I didn't really understand the difference of a shampoo is different than a condition, and that a shampoo needs to be a vigorous cleanse of the hair. And also the hair culture in New York was so much different because there's so much dirt in the air. So when you are constantly outside walking on foot and your hair is not protected, and you get down into the subway and the train flies by and you get all this rat shit blown up from underneath and it all flies around and goes into your hair, and you have all these microscopic particles of dirt and dinge that are constantly flying into your hair, whether you're walking down the street and the cars are flying by, you're hailing a taxi, you're just like, you're over in the meatpacking district where it's crazy windy, where Marilyn Monroe stood on the grates and all that kind of stuff. And it's just crazy, crazy, crazy windy in that area. And so your hair in New York City would get much dirtier than it does in any other places. This is also why in New York, you never really, there's always an exception to the rule, but you never really put product in a woman's hair if you were just doing a blowout. In episode 1, we talked about blowouts, and ladies never do their own hair. And so when you would do a full-blown blowout, it was a shampoo, a very, very, very light condition, and then a blowout with zero product. And you had to know how to manipulate hair and make that hair look so frigging good without any product. Because once you started putting stuff in the hair, it gave the dirt and debris something to cling and attach to. And if you put hairspray in the hair, you were instantly seen as like an amateur hairdresser. It was amateur hour right away. If you pulled out hairspray at the end of your blowout, people were like, bro, are you kidding me? And that was an eye-opening thing in general. But what was great was I learned that the shampoo was a vigorous, vigorous clean of the scalp and the hair. And it wasn't this slow, meticulous massage. That was more of what you did during the conditioning, because the conditioner can sit in the hair a little longer. And also the, usually you can almost do that kind of stuff too when you're like toning or glossing or putting clear glosses on, or you're doing like, deep conditioning treatment, things like that. That's when you can, when you have time to spare, that's when you could throw in the extra massages. But in a downtown, very busy New York salon, the culture it thrives on their colorists. So when I was assisting a hair cutter, even if it was the owner, so I would be shampooing somebody's hair, and if I was doing this slow, methodical shampoo and I was giving her the goods, basically a colorist would come over with her client's head full of foils, and those foils had to go. We do not over bleach hair here. We need to pull these foils now. And here's Matt, playing his violin and his saxophone with his wind machine blowing his hair back, trying to, with his foot up, trying to give this crazy moonlight shampoo. And the colorist would get pissed at you. And it was always this like internal struggle with all the assistants to be like, yo, you fucking haircut assistants have got to speed up your shampoos, because we can't have you guys clogging our shampoo bowls. So my buddy Marco taught me how to give this amazing shampoo. And it was basically this like, you held the client's head, like the back of the head with the back of their skull, like right on their occipital. And then you took your strong hand, which was always your right hand, and you basically, in a raking fashion, started at the left side of the hairline and just went whoa, 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 and just raked all the way back to the back, all the way around, underneath, into the neck. Really, you lift up the head. You basically controlled their head with your holding hand, and you would pick it up and move the head everywhere you needed to, so that you could get in with your cleansing hand, let's call it, or the claw. And you would get in there and just quickly shampoo as fast as you could, and then boom, rinse. And the shampoo should be done in 30 seconds. It was like so different than what I realized coming from Seattle, where I could just take my time and do my thing. And so it was like, boom, dude, these shampoos have got to be moving. Plus the New York culture, the New York state of mind. A lot of people didn't really give a shit. A lot of people didn't care about this fantastic massage. If they wanted a massage, they'd go book a massage. And there were other salons that offered head massages as a service. And I think even some of our clients, I don't remember it happening a lot, but I think there were times when, clients would book like a head shampoo or a head massage, but we would never do it at the shampoo bowl. We would do it at one of the chairs, so that you weren't wasting that real estate. And unlike in beauty school, Sally's salon, even though it being a powerhouse mecca in the downtown area, it only had 4 shampoo bowls. So when you only have 4 shampoo bowls and 30 stylists and, a very fast-paced environment, we definitely weren't standing around doing these beautiful shampoos. So that was definitely a big eye-opener for me moving to New York, and it made a lot of sense looking back at it now. And then, of course, it all came full circle back to Brian being like, dude, you think this is all fine and dandy, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is a business, and, you might get a little bit bigger of a tip or something for giving a great shampoo. But now the testament, like, I go back to New York. Well, I haven't been back since February via COVID, but normally I would go back every 3 months, and I would cut all of my clients' hair. And I've gotten to the point now where I cut most of them either at their apartment, because I built that relationship with them, or I cut them like in a more private setting, like, you know, in an apartment that I'm staying at. And I asked them if they miss the shampoo, do they miss the salon experience? Do they miss that environment that, you know, they were so used to me giving them? And they were like, dude, like, if I want a really nice shampoo and a blowout, I will book all that. That's fine. But they were like, I would much rather get like a really good haircut from you and not have you waste your time doing all this other stuff. So again, Brian was right. And as I've evolved in my career and became more sought after for my actual haircut and my talent to cut hair, not just my talent to like blow smoke up people's ass and try to give them the best shampoo so that they didn't care if they got a bad haircut or not, because their head was so numb and they were just in Zen land that that they didn't care. So anyway, a couple other things when you're shampooing your own hair. There is not only the scalp manipulation you have to worry about, but you have to worry about what happens when you start manipulating the length. And the manipulation of the scalp is much, much different than the manipulation of the length. And this is basically because, this is gonna sound really stupid and Frankensteinish, but your hair is connected to your scalp. When you start rubbing the hair around that's not connected to your scalp, the shit gets tangled. So you can be vigorous and vicious and really like, you know, get in there and scrub your hair at your scalp. But then as you start moving your hands down and you start massaging and you want to get the dirt and debris out of your lengths and ends, then it becomes more of like a really soft, gentle scrunching motion. And, you know, it's more of like this manipulation of squeezing and manipulating and squeezing. And it's a whole different type of thing, because if you go and you know, just fuck up your scalp, which is fine, and then you go down and you do the same manipulation, you know, that you do on your mid lengths and then your ends, you are then going to get this massive tangled mess, and you're also roughing up the most important part of your hair to make it look healthy, clean, shiny, beautiful, radiant, is your cuticle. So if you're roughing the cuticle up, which is like the clear coat on a car, it's this transparent, you know, it's like a transparent layer that lays over the top of your hair. And when your hair gets frizzy, it's the cuticle that raises up, and that's what causes frizz. So if you're roughing that up all of the time, you basically are making yourself work twice as hard, when you're gonna have to style your hair, and then you're gonna probably try to compensate with some sort of deep conditioner or some sort of crazy heavy product. And your hair will become unruly and rougher in texture just because you're being rough and unruly with your hair. So if you are soft and gentle and you manipulate with mindfulness as you work the shampoo down through your hair shaft, you basically are going to not only improve the health, but you're going to improve your styling time. You're going to improve the overall like money you will save, not having to buy all these different things to mask a problem that you could easily correct in the first place just by knowing how to manipulate your shampoo and shampoo your hair in your shower. And this type of manipulation, you know, there were so many hair extensions going on in New York City that if you manipulated the hair like that, I remember so many times seeing like somebody, I mean, I'm sure it had happened to me a couple times too, but it's like when you do that to the hair and it's hair extensions. So the issue with hair extensions is it's not your hair, it's somebody else's hair. So when you have somebody else's hair in with your hair and you're roughing your cuticle up and you're roughing that cuticle up, and that cuticle normally is Asian hair 80% of the time. So when you're roughing up that hair, and then let's say you're a blonde girl, and so that cuticle has already been so processed to go from black to blonde, it gets so rough and unruly, and you mat all of the hair together, and that's when it really becomes a nightmare. And so I would see it all the time in the salon, you know, the girl with the full head of extensions, and she goes back over to the chair and it's just this mega mat, and it's like the craziest matted mess ever. And you know, there were all these different techniques to try to detangle and comb, and you know, everyone would just try to rely on detangling spray and just soak the hair with all this stuff, or put more of this in it or put more of that in it. When I was taught by an amazing stylist, her name was Rebecca, and Rebecca opened up a whole new world of way of thinking to me when it came to deal with hair and tangles. And she kind of was the one that taught me that if you're going to continue to brush down on the hair and try to brush the hair out, you're going to basically just tighten tangles up, and they're just going to, all those little tangles are now knots, and those knots are now tight, and you cannot get them out. So what Rebecca would do is she would see where the knot was and back comb back into it, which sounds so counterproductive because normally people think when you back comb hair, you're actually matting it. But what she was doing was loosening the hair back up throughout the knot so that then you could kind of just manipulate it with your hands and pull the knot apart. Just like when you have, really bad analogy, but right now I've been doing a lot of workouts with bands at home, like those resistance bands. So in order to like attach a band to something, you have to like wrap it around a pole or some shit, and then you wrap the band through itself, and then when you pull on that band really hard, that knot gets really tight. And there are times when I'm like, damn, I don't know how I'm supposed to get this knot out. But if you just push the band back through, like up towards the knot, instead of trying to like pull the top of the band out, you take it from below and push it up, the band would release and it would be much easier. But that was something I remember Rebecca showing me, that when she would back comb the hair back out, all of the mats would come out. And it was just this most amazing test of like patience and just using a styling technique or a manipulation in a way that was so, to me, it was like ingenuitive, and it's really helped me in my path. So if you guys are detangling your hair, or you have a ton of tangles in it for something like that, try to lightly back brush, like brush back up some of the detangles and try to loosen them back up that way, instead of just trying to rip a brush down through your hair as you detangle. And that's like a really important, I think a really important tip for you guys as you get out of the shower, or even in the shower, before you condition, things like that. If you have a lot of tangling issues, oh man, they're doing some sort of construction or something above me. I really hope this doesn't mess with my audio. I'm just gonna press on though. So a couple other things when you are picking your shampoos out, there's a lot of different types of shampoos. And I think it's really important to tell you guys what a clarifying shampoo is. So a clarifying shampoo is one that is your deepest cleansing. It's gonna strip all the shit out of your hair. It's gonna clean deeper than anything else. Its job is to clean your hair. So that's like your ultimate deep cleaning shampoo. Volumizing shampoos are kind of the same thing, to be honest. A volumizing shampoo, if you think about what it's supposed to do, is it's supposed to make your hair light. It's supposed to give your hair volume. Well, it's not like it's a peptide and you're putting a shampoo on your hair and it's like, it's not gonna absorb into your hair shaft and be like, hair steroids, now we got volume, baby. No, basically what it does is it cleanses your hair way better than normal so that your hair kind of like sits up on itself. It's like, oh, look how light I am. I've got no dirt. I'm free, little piece of hair. Same thing as a clarifying shampoo most of the time. Clarifying shampoos are probably much stronger because that is the purpose for them. I don't think, with a volumizing shampoo, they probably have as deep of a cleaning agent to them. But nonetheless, regardless, that's what they're doing. Don't think that, they're adding some sort of B protein peptiding, steroidal, things into your hair that are going to make your hair actually stand up better. No, they're just making your hair lighter due to the fact that it's cleaner. So then you have your moisturizing shampoos, which are normally for the overprocessed girls and or our curly girls, because if you're a curly girl, your hair is just naturally curlier. The shape of your follicle has basically bent the hair in a way that when your hair curls out of the follicle, it curls, which just like if you take a scissor and a ribbon and you go zip and it curls all up, it's just got more tension. It's got a lot more elasticity, and like the elastin in the hair causes a little bit more dryness and things like that. But basically curly hair is just always drier. And also because curly hair is curly, it obviously wants to tangle and mat and, be a little bit more unruly and not so, and it doesn't want to always, what is it called when Phoenix runs across the room when I don't want it to? Misbehave. Sometimes curly hair wants to misbehave. So That's important to also know that when you're working with curly hair, you're even that gentler, you're even that softer. And you really, really, really want to make sure that you're not over manipulating it. Even at your scalp, sometimes it might be better to do a much softer cleanse than it is a big, rough, vigorous one. Anytime you're working with curly hair, it's a totally different regime than normal. And so when I was doing this, I was kind of known in the salon as a guy that was good at getting out detangles. And I was also kind of known as like the guy that never said no in the salon. I always would take a client. I would always stay late. I would always go above and beyond. And I think that's really why I got to where I did in my career in the pace that I did, because I just never said no. And one day someone called up the salon and had an issue with their hair. They had been on bed rest and they were on the Upper West Side, and they called Sally Hirschberger and said, "Can you send one of your stylists up to me? I have a knot in my hair that I can't get out." So the manager comes to me and goes, "Matt, someone's on the phone. They've got, their hair's matted, it's knotted, something. Will you go up to her house and detangle it?" And I'm like, "Yes," because I guess she had surgery, so she couldn't come down to the salon, right? So of course I'm going to say, "Yes, I would love to do that. I will do that." So after work, jump on the 2-3, fly up to the Upper West Side, and go to this, knock on this girl's door. And when she opens this door, it's like this dark cave. And it's really like, yes, she must have been on bed rest for a while, but it also looked like she hadn't, it was like there were cigarettes everywhere, and it was just this dingy, just gross environment that I was like, oh boy, what did I just get myself into? I thought like a cat was gonna like jump on my face, and I was like, my God, I wish iPhones had lights on them at that time, because then maybe I could turn it on and see what I was getting myself into. And this woman, like, she's like, "Come in, little boy," and I felt like Hansel and Gretel or something going into this witch's place. I'm like, I'm gonna end up in an oven. So I go in and I sit down, and this girl is, she's obviously struggling. Life's not great for her at this moment. So I'm trying to, put myself in her position and be like, okay, let's see what's going on with her hair, and I should be able to detangle this shit and get out of here, and it's not going to be a big deal. So she somehow like turns on a lamp or something and sits down at her little kitchenette table thing. And the first thing she wants to do is show me all these old pictures of herself in like swimsuits. And I'm just like, what is going on? And she's like, "Well, I just want you to see what my hair used to look like." And I'm like, "Well, can you show me a picture where you're not in a swimsuit? Like, this is weird. Like, why are you showing me all these like, like risque photos of you?" And she did have beautiful hair, and I get it. And definitely like, and then she was like, "Yeah, I've been on bed rest, so now, this is what I used to look like, and now I look like this," and I get it, and and so I was there for her for that. So then she shows me her hair, and her hair, I had never seen anything like this. You guys, it was like a football, like a pure NFL-sized football of pure matted jungle hell, and I just went, "Okay." And she goes, "Yeah, I've been sleeping on it, and it just got matted." And I'm looking at it and I'm just going, how does this even happen? Like, it's one of those things that, like, if you showed me this picture for like an editorial and we wanted to do like a jungle editorial with like fucking tigers, they'd be like, "We want this hairstyle." I probably wouldn't know how to do it. This wasn't just like fuck me curls. This was like, what has happened to the back of this poor woman's head? So I'm trying to detangle and trying to figure out where to even start, because I didn't know where the top was, where the bottom was. Like, the hair was it just looked like a loom of hell. And I am going, okay. So honestly, I really didn't know what to do. And she goes, "Do you want me to go get conditioner?" Because I put conditioner in it. And I went, "Okay, you've put conditioner in it?" And she goes, "Yeah, I put conditioner in it a few days ago. And then I just sort of left it in." And I went, "Well, when did you rinse it out?" And she went, "I haven't yet." And I went, You haven't yet?" And she went, "No, I just thought if I left the conditioner in, the conditioner would kind of just work the mats out, and it would like somehow miraculously detangle my hair." And I'm like, "Oh no, lady." So I think she also had like a broken arm, so she couldn't brush it. You know, it was a whole thing. And so I'm I'm trying to like figure out what to do. And like I just basically said, you know what? I honestly, this is so mad. It's like when you take your dog to the groomer and they're like, yo, you like didn't brush your dog's fur, so guess what? Guess who's getting a summer cut in February? And I went, you know, I honestly think that we have to cut this out. And there's just going to be no way to detangle this. And I think I worked on it. I think I tried detangling it for like 3 hours. So we're on hour 3, hour 4 in this crazy apartment, and she's chain smoking cigarettes and showing me all these weird pictures of herself, talking about how beautiful she was. And then I'm just sort of like, you know, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I think we need to cut it out. I'm really sorry. Like if you want me to, and she wouldn't let me leave. That was the other thing that was so weird. She wouldn't let me leave. And I was just kind of like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. And she was like, no, you just have to fix this. You have to fix this. And I think it was probably her first human interaction in like 45 years. It's probably what most of us are feeling like right now during COVID, when you like see a friend again and you're like, oh my God, I just want to like hang out with you for a minute. And then you become this uber clingy friend that everyone's like, I don't remember you being this clingy. But that's how this was. And it almost got to the point where I was getting like weirdly uncomfortable. So I think she started name dropping that she knew all these people at Cosmo. Sorry, excuse me as I clear my throat. And she started saying that she had all these friends at Cosmo magazine. And at that time, I think I was probably giving haircuts and or styling almost on a daily basis, every editor at Cosmo at that time. And I was like, oh, like, who do you know? And she would name drop. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I didn't really say anything to them. But she said, if you leave, I'm going to call Cosmo and bash you. And basically have them write an article about how you wouldn't help me with my situation. And I remember just sitting there going, you bitch, oh my God, like what the hell? And I was almost just going to be like, try it. Like they're all my friends and they know me and they know that I would come up here and help you with this. And I've been here now 4 hours or whatever it was. So I had to convince her that I would cut her hair and then put extensions in it for her. And that I wouldn't charge her extensions. She'd just have to buy the hair. And I wouldn't upcharge her. I wouldn't charge her for my time to put them in. I'll do it after hours. I was like, lady, I want to get out of your apartment so bad. Please let me leave. I will give you brand new, fresh hair. So anyway, I start cutting her hair out. And as I'm cutting it, it starts oozing. And like this football that I'm cutting into to try to figure out what's going on starts oozing. And I am going, and I'm trying not to gag. And I go, oh, I think I found the conditioner that you didn't rinse out. I didn't realize I was working like with a lava cake situation of a matted hairstyle. And so this conditioner is dripping out of her hair as I'm trying to cut it out. And then by that time I was like, oh, hell no. And I think I just pulled my razor out and like found where this knot connected to her head. And I just like shaved the knot off the back of her head, and the whole fucking clump of hair hit the ground like a 1,000,000-pound weight, like a dumbbell. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Lady, you gotta learn how to shampoo your hair. Girls, if you're listening to this at home, please don't ever have that happen to anyone. It was one of those house call situations that I had never, ever will forget. And it was so horrendous to sit in that place. And once I finally cut her hair all off, I think it was hour 5. And then of course, when she called the salon, she asked my rate, which at that time the manager was like, he's $250, which that was my, semi-hourly rate because that was my haircut or something. But that was my hourly rate. So I'm up there for 5 hours. So I'm like, all right, at least I'm like, at least this is a $1,200 day or whatever, whatever it was going to be at least like $750 I'm going to charge her for 5 hours of my time. And just like the years off my life from the cigarettes, and then the therapists I had to go see afterwards once I, cut that animal off the back of her head. But yeah, so anyway, she didn't want to pay. She thought it was all going to be free. She then starts telling like this story about Cosmo. And I'm just like, oh my God. And yes, I did put the extensions in her hair, but then I think I said, you know, once these extensions are in your hair, I really sadly don't think that we're a compatible client stylist pairing. So sometimes you have to fire clients, and that was one of those times, which was really sad, all based upon the fact that if you just learned how to shampoo your hair, it would have been all better. Yeah, so anyway, you guys, I hope that when you shampoo your hair, you know that to manipulate it much softer. Use always shampoo from the root down to the mid shafts, baby the mid shafts. And then also some things are like, some really great things that have been coming out lately in technology is like the fact that, you know, the sulfates and the bubbles. I know a lot of people are really stuck on this fact that if they don't feel their hair bubbling up, their hair isn't clean. That's kind of a myth now. The sulfates in the hair, you know, I'm sure most of you all know that like they can be very color stripping, they can be very damaging. So when you look for certain products, you can also find really great cleansing conditioners that are great if you are girls that have already beautiful hair and don't need to clean a lot of it. If you are working out constantly, so when I was doing like every girl that rode a bike at SoulCycle, they were always asking what they should use because they sweat so much, and they didn't like the fact that I said you have to not wash your hair every other day. So I got them all into using like cleansing conditioners, which were really good, or even volumizing conditioners, because they were so light that you could at least kind of do the manipulation of cleansing with the water. And the cleansing conditioners were the volumizing conditioners were usually so light that they wouldn't weigh your hair down that much, and then that way you could at least get the sweat out of your hair if that was something you were really worried about. And yeah, but cleansing conditioners were fantastic. And if you are a girl that's just like has to wash their hair every day, I would look into doing more of that, because ultimately you just don't want the stripping of your hair. Yeah, this is not a, it's not a strip show with the hair. You want to make sure that you are, you know, taking care of it. Take care of that hair. And I will get into conditioners in a different episode. I think we've done enough with the shampooing on this one. I think starting it off with a nightmare of my washing machine into washing has been fun. And then also, of course, I can't end the episode without talking about the elephant in the room, the all-important reason I got into hair, and that's Warren Beatty and shampoo. No, I'm kidding. I actually didn't know what that movie was until years into my career, when one of my dad's car salesman, his name was Richard. Every time I'd come home, he'd always go, "Hey, Warren, how's New York, Warren? What's going on, Warren?" And I never really understood until finally I had to watch Shampoo, and I figured, oh, that's what Shampoo's about. I get it. And what a great movie. If you guys have not seen Shampoo, it is a classic, and I highly, highly recommend it. And yeah, so basically, if anyone is waiting to get to a theme park, I hope they all visit Splash Mountain, because you'll probably think of some old lady screaming, getting her face drenched with water. And now I hope that every time you get your hair shampooed, you think of Kenny G and someone playing a saxophone behind you, and you giggle. And that's going to do it for us today, guys. I really appreciate you all spending some time with me. And of course, I hope you all have a dad hair day, and I will see everybody in the next episode.